my crazy ascension journey. I didn't know I was having an ascension journey. I just thought I was having an unfortunate life because I dealt with so many difficulties and challenges. I thought I was just cursed. Maybe that's what was going on. But now I know that's not the case. And I also know where our world is now and that I have something to offer, as we all do. And when we hold that back, our world doesn't get any better. And I don't like becoming public sometimes, and that's my introverted side. We all have those things within us, those different personality traits, but it also comes a time where you've got to move beyond that and start to own who you are, even with those different traits that you might have developed over time or just inherited, or might be natural to you, as they were for me. From being a child of fearful from the time I was born, practically. Now, we each have different lives that we live, but they're all meant to give us something that we can give back to the world when we understand why we had our lives. And that is what I am doing now. When I first began receiving information, I was quite young, and I started to cut it off. It was weird to me. This intuition or something that was coming through that I didn't completely understand. So I spent my life saying, no, this didn't happen. I became afraid to sleep at night if I would see visions or something. And I started not seeing visions anymore, but I did start to hear. I'm more auditory in terms of the way I receive information. I've always known that. But when I was beginning my life, I had a lot of challenges. From the time I began at 12 years old, I had trauma because I fell through the ice on a river and I didn't know how to swim. The trauma just permeated my entire being. Then I went on to have so many other illnesses and diseases. And died almost many times. In 1974, I'm in the hospital and I had to have a surgery, and I'm about to bleed out. I didn't know this is what was happening, that I was dying, and a nurse came in and found me in the bed with all this blood and decided that they had to sew me up right away. Didn't give me enough time. They didn't have time to even give me an anesthetic, so I had to endure the pain. They didn't even have a room to put me in. They put me in a hallway to sew me up so I wouldn't die. It was the most excruciating pain any human could possibly experience. But that wasn't the end of it. There were so many more that happened. At one point, many years later, I came down with a weird disease that no one could understand. Why did I have this? And it progressed to the point where I lost part of my left foot. They thought that I might lose my leg. But then I said, well, I can't do that. I'm saying this because I started learning mind-body connection at this point, because I'd started studying other things. I'd started getting other information from like A Course in Miracle, Science and Mind, and all that. I was raised in a family that were Christian scientists, and my grandmother exhibited this healing ability, but I couldn't do that. I thought, why can't I do what she's doing? And she said, well, you work to the level of your understanding. And so that got me to become aware that we each have our own journeys that we're meant to live. They have these difficulties within them, but they're all valuable if we choose to understand them. Sometimes it takes a long time for us to do that, but we also exist in the world now where it is more important for all of us to understand it, because we're moving through a generational shift, meaning that we're letting go of all this old crap that we've had either in our lives now, what we've created, what we've accumulated as we've lived, or from what we brought in that we don't remember. It's probably all of it at this point, because that is the shift that we're moving through, moving to a different dimension. My guides called it a restructuring. Now, it's challenging to believe some of these things because we look at our world and we see, why is so much happening? Why did we have a pandemic? Why did we have a war in this time in our world? Why are all these things happening? And then I realized that I had written all about it several years ago. Didn't know why I was doing that and how I knew that. Several years ago, I was guided to start watching some videos, documentaries on ancient history. I go, I'm not interested in it. I never studied any of this or didn't care, but it was about to awaken the memory that I did have. That's what we all do. We all have memories. We all have connections to something that came before. We just have to be willing to allow it to come through. And then there's certain people who are meant to bring this information to the world, and I'm one of them. But I was holding back. Sometimes we do that. and for various reasons. And I had a lot of them. I had to break through my generational barriers, through my friends and family. They wanted me to stay a certain way. That's what happens as you evolve. You may change so much that people don't know who you are anymore. That's perfect. You are meant to live, supposed to live this glorious life. Now, I can tell you now that all the things that I experienced, which were so beyond what anybody could possibly believe. At one point, I was going to write a book called Overcoming Everything, and people said, well, nobody's going to believe that. Except I said that's what I did. And I did it through the work that I downloaded, and that made no sense to a lot of people, but they saw me continually heal things that were seemingly impossible. And now here I'm sitting at 72 years old, where I'm in better health than ever, with all the other stuff that had happened. And I'm saying this because I want people to understand that it is something within us that we always have, that we can start to develop and live a glorious life, and if we want to, but it's a personal choice. Now, we all knew what was happening in our world. We saw the pandemic begin in 2020 and all of that, and we're wondering, how is this happening? We'd never experienced anything like that. At that time, I started receiving information saying, yes, this is what's going on. You're moving through a restructuring. Didn't understand that. Then in 2021, I'm taking a walk and I hear my guide say to me, we gave you everything you needed to know in 2012. I thought, that's insane. That didn't happen. And then I come into my home and I go to my computer and I look at a folder that I'd never paid attention to before, but it's sitting there. It said Wilhelm. And I opened the folder and most of the message were 2012. Why did that get there? I'm not going to try to figure it out logically, but they're sitting there. Then I started looking at them and they seemed different than all the other messages that I'd had. And they said, yes, we gave you those in 2012. And then they said, we gave you a philosophy, and it is to help you move into the next new world, how to usher in the new world, how to operate in the new world. And they said, here is the name. It's called Your Life Operating Instructions. I said, that's insane. Oh, well, yeah. You've lived a life where you've uncovered all of these things, so why couldn't you give it back to someone else? I said, no, it couldn't be me. That's what I did. And this, from the dream that I had in 2005, I said it couldn't be me as well. I had a dream in 2005, and I don't remember many of them. This one is the only one that I remembered, and it was me volunteering. Many of us have had that experience, volunteering to do something that I didn't know what it was. And now I know what it was. I resisted it, and every time I resisted something, I would have more physical ailments in my body. And then when I would let go, then things would start to heal. Only happened just even a month ago. Something in my knee. I said, okay, I've got to own more of myself. And then my knee, which I was going to have surgery for, was healed. And I've done these things over and over again, so I have to give it back to others. But I was resisting that. When they told me I received all the information in 2012 to move through this time, I had no idea what that meant. I didn't even know the significance of 2012, even though it's a date, but it was a change in our world. We have accumulated changes that happen over times, and we can relate to them in our years, our human years, basically. However, many people knew about 2012. I didn't. And I was in a Facebook group, and I talked about this crazy thing that happened. And they said, Roger, don't you know that's when the Mayan calendar was ended and people thought the world was going to end? Oh, no, I didn't remember that. Didn't know anything. Going back and look, I can kind of have a vague memory. But I was never into any of that. And then I went to look to see what my Wilhelm wrote on that day, gave me on that date on December 21st, 2012, and it was wait. I go, well, okay, what does that mean? Now, I would receive things all the time, and I want to say this. I would receive things all the time and write them out and have no idea what I was writing. I was accessing information that was beyond what I knew. I later learned that it was ancient wisdom that I had the ability to receive. And I had no idea. So many times when I would receive messages, because I've done it, I do it every single morning, I would receive words that I didn't understand what they meant. And my Wilhelm would say, look it up. Go to the dictionary and look it up. Okay. And then when I would do that, it would always make sense. And I come back many years later and look at a message. I had no idea. To give you an example, I didn't know we would be moving through an ascension, a planetary ascension, I thought. And then I had some friend was talking to me about, ascension. This was many, many years ago. I said, I don't know what that is. I go back and I look at the messages and I search and I go, yeah, 2013, it was given to me. Moving to the light. That's what we're supposed to do. And we move to the light when we drop our darkness, our weight that we are carrying, and it is the past. And this particular change that our world is moving through is letting go of the past. And they told me that what's going to happen is that we gave you all of this information because there's going to be a little chaos, and you need to understand what is occurring because you're trying to get to a new place. Certain people are going to want to hold on to what is old. We see that happening right now. And then there are others of you, like you, who will want to move into something new, but you're also supposed to help the others that don't understand what's going on. And I was not living up to my end of that bargain, you see. And that's what I'm doing now. Because I know, when they said, we have given you something that could cause any person to actualize their lives and live this extraordinary life, I said, that's not possible. So then in December of 2021, I decided, let me try it. And so I put several people in a group, and then I'm watching them change so quickly that the first night we were going to have a group meeting, I stayed up all night reading reading what they had sent me because they were doing assignments, and I couldn't believe that they were changing so quickly, and things that they were uncovering and doing that took me decades to even admit, and they're writing it down. The way that we evolve as a world is that we each come in with something to offer, and it develops, and we give it back to others. That's it. We don't know what it's going to be, but we have to become willing to accept it. The very first message that they gave me in 2012 on January 1st was about infinite intelligence, because they wanted me to understand that I was receiving information, because the information has always existed. It's always been there. We just have to allow it to come in. And then when it started to make sense, they said, you're supposed to take this information and you add your essence to it. That's what we all do. We're given something to do, but we have to put our stamp on it. What is our essence? We came into the world to do that. Then they kept telling me when I would start to do live channeling sessions, there is no hierarchy of souls. That was the message that I was supposed to bring through, and to get more people to love and own who they are. And the work that I was given gets them to do that in a systematic way. See, because we don't get there unless we follow a path that I was given, which was every day doing something. That's how I moved and changed my life. That was my morning routine, to do my information. I will tell you that I hid it from everyone. This is what happened. When I started receiving it in 1988, it was kind of shocking to me. And I said, this is weird. But it was real. I started with automatic writing. And at that point, I thought, I don't understand what this is why this is happening, and why am I able to understand? Why is it helping my life? And I couldn't tell people because I thought they're going to think I'm crazy and they're going to judge me. So I didn't do that. And it wasn't the thing for me to be out there doing this. I didn't want to be public with it. And I was just using it for myself and everything in my life that I was able to move through over those years. And some of them were challenging beyond what you can possibly imagine. I spent a month in a hospital, and then you really get in touch with who you are. There are many, many different things. But the fact is, I am saying that what I know is that we are here now to help our world move into this new dimension, and I have something that I've been withholding a bit, as we all do. But my work causes people to no longer withhold. But I'm talking about it now because we're all going to be experiencing or feeling something, and my Wilhelm said, you've got to let go of your old stuff. We each contribute to the conditions of our world by how much we're willing to love ourselves. And we can only do that if we work through all of the old stuff, all of the issues that we had. And that's what my work has done. That's what it's done for me and others. When I saw the results of the people that have done this, I said, I've got to take it even further. And so that's why I'm extending my work and creating this program a whole year. And then I'm supposed to write a book. And the book is Your Life Operating Instructions. And that will be what I will leave, and it'll be my legacy. We are changing into something really brilliant if we decide that we're going to allow ourselves to become who we're meant to be.